Mike, is that too loud? It's not too loud at all? All right, that sounds good. It sounds like I'm in, like, Madison Square Garden here. I'm not used to this type of wow, 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 wow. Anyway, thank you for coming. I'm a little disheveled here because we just got done with having dinner with all our guests over at the Linden Diner. We have, I think we have 8 to 10 Tea Party leaders here, including Sam Rohrer with Americans for Prosperity and David Baldinger with the Pennsylvania Taxpayers Coalition. And I got to get the agenda. Hold on a second. All right, we'd like to start off with our prayer for the evening, and George Chaplin will be leading us in prayer.
Before we pray, I'd like to remind everyone that we have a special prayer time. It starts at 6:30, and if you're interested, we always gather in the corner someplace to have a time of prayer about our country and about the 9/12 Patriots, all right? Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you so very much for the privilege of serving you. Lord, we just pray for our country. We pray, dear God, that in a miraculous way things will be turned around and our country will once again be put on the right path. We thank you, Lord, for the way that you've provided for us. We thank you for the men and women who are diligent in wanting to see right done in our country. We pray, Lord, for those that are in offices in the York County area, in New York City, and in the state. We pray for our representatives in Congress and our senators. We pray for the president. We ask, God, that hearts would be turned around and our country would once again be on the right path. We thank you for this evening. We ask that you bless the entire service. In Christ's name, amen.
I had to look around for the flag, but next thing we like to pledge the flag. So if you could stand, please, and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We have a couple upcoming events that are very important. The first upcoming event would be the Constitution Blitz, which is cool, and that's being held at the it's an Institute on the Constitution Blitz, and what it is, it's a 2-day class. It's going to be held in Spring Grove at the St. Paul Lutheran Church on October 21st and 22nd, which is not this Friday and Saturday, but the following Friday and Saturday. It runs from I have this here somewhere. On Friday, it runs from, I don't have it, Sue Silcox. 5:30 Friday till 9. 8:30 Saturday until 5 on Saturday. And lunch is included. And the cost for this is $30 per person. It's an excellent, intensive class on the Constitution. And we will also have the leader of the 9/12, the national leader of the 9/12 Project will be there, which is it should be a good draw. So if you're interested, please contact Sue Silcox. Can you stand up, Sue, please? And Sue's number is 225-5250. If you need it, let me know or contact Sue tonight. Thank you, Sue. There's another thing. Is Nick Pandelitis here? Dr. Nick was supposed to be here. They have a group of 3 gentlemen running for York Suburban School District on the school board. And on Monday night from 7:30, I think it's 7 to 9 o'clock, there's going to be a phone blitz, and it's going to be taking place at OSS, the orthopedic doctors down on Powder Mill Road, thank you. It's nothing like having help in the audience, because I don't have everything in order up here. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me. You can contact me on my email address, scottburkholder@comcast.net. But we're looking to get 15 to 20 people to make phone calls out to the constituents in York Suburban School District. The other thing is we have our next monthly meeting, which is November 3rd. It's only 3 weeks from tonight. That'll be just a week before the election. So please join us for that. Scott Wagner will be here from Penn Waste discussing some of the business regulations that he has to deal with. It should be a very good meeting. The next item on the agenda is over the last several weeks, we, the York 912 Patriots, have been engaged in a controversy over the viewing of the movie Agenda and the events that transpired afterwards. Brief synopsis of what happened. Actually, how many people were at the viewing of the movie? So we had quite a few people here. There were 85 people at the viewing, which was a good turnout. We actually had 2 guests there that we didn't expect, and I'll get into that in a little bit. A brief synopsis of what happened. We sent out a press release, an email blast, and a phone blast prior to the date of the viewing. And in brief, basically a press release stated, movie night, when? September 15th, 7 p.m. Where? The Holiday Inn, Holidome, 2000 Laux Road, York. What? A free viewing of the Agenda, Grinding America Down. The powerful, award-winning documentary explores the history of the progressive movement in the United States and how we, the people, have allowed the progressive movement to flourish. The movie will be followed by an exploration of our own representative's voting record, which serves as proof that his voting tendencies support a progressive agenda. Why? We must know our history and understand the progressive agenda so we can defeat it. What can I do? Join us, bring a friend. That was the press release. That went out on a phone blast, it went out on an email blast, and it was sent to the newspaper. On September 15th, we hosted a viewing of the documentary Agenda, which details the history and implementation of a progressive socialist agenda in America. Congressman Platts attended this viewing. We did not have prior knowledge that he would be attending. He arrived at approximately 7:05 and took a seat 2 rows from the front. His chief of staff, Bob Riley, arrived at approximately 7:20 and took a seat in the back. After the presentation, we presented our own congressman's voting record for the purpose of showing that his votes dovetailed with the agenda presented in the movie. At the conclusion of the presentation, Congressman Platts raised his hand and stated that he guessed he would not have an opportunity to comment on our allegations. I politely told him that before the movie presentation, I stated that the movie would be 1 hour and 40 minutes in length, and the presentation on his voting record would be 20 minutes, and I would like to end the evening at 9 p.m., and we do not have time. Also understand, we have an open invitation to all our representatives, state and federal. If they would like to address the meeting, all they have to do is contact us and get on the agenda. Another fact that was lost is Congressman Platts was at our August meeting and spoke for an hour and a half in defense of his record. My one question is, why do you have to defend your record if you're voting in accordance with your constituents' wishes? Wouldn't your vote stand on its merits alone? After the meeting, our congressman approached me and suggested we were violating an FEC regulation, spending over $1,000 to advocate for the removal of a federal congressman. The following day, the congressman personally called me at home, left a message. I was up at the Republican State Committee meeting. My wife Leanne called me and told me that Congressman Platts left a message, so I called him back. And when I called him back, he guided me to the website to show me the FEC regulation that he believed we violated, and he said he was correct in his assumption the evening before. As you might have read, there was quite a bit of coverage of this in the local newspapers. I'd like to set the record straight on some issues tonight. Number one, Congressman Platts was not a victim of a broadside attack. He stated in one story that he thought he was attending a regularly scheduled monthly meeting. This could not be further from the truth. He knew what the agenda of the evening was to be. Number two, Congressman Platts has had ample time to speak at our meetings. He can come to any of our meetings and speak as long as he gives us some ample warning and we can get them into the agenda. Number 3, we did not call Congressman Platts a communist or a useful idiot. We presented how his voting record dovetails with the progressive ideals brought forth in the movie. Number 4, the entire story turned into the York 912 Patriots calling Congressman Platts a communist and a useful idiot. Really? Sensationalism does grab headlines, I guess. What became lost in the hysteria was the fact that Congressman Platt's voting record does not coincide with the values and principles of the vast majority of his constituents. What is lost in the story is that our congressman, on many occasions, votes to spend your money on foolish legislation and does not vote constitutionally. What is lost in the story is the fact that this congressman threatened us with a constitutionally illegal FEC regulation that he himself voted for and put in place. Where's the fact that we did not even violate the regulation in the first place? We have been scrutinized, criticized, lied about, insulted, and demeaned by the press in the 19th District constituency, and some of our own membership included. Does this concern us? No, not in the least. What concerns us is that our congressman that actually votes for legislation we know is crippling this nation's economy does not suffer the same scrutiny. He has, by and large, been given a free pass here in the 19th District. We aim to end that. When Congressman Platt's voting record is shown to his constituents in a clear and concise manner, the evidence is indisputable. I need you to ask yourselves why we are here tonight. Why is there a Tea Party movement? What is its purpose? Had the Republican Party stood up to its principles, would we be gathering here in this hotel this evening? The purpose of this group, of this movement, in Pennsylvania and nationally, is to return this nation to a nation of endless opportunity, not a nation crippled by debt and regulation. To return the government to its rightful place, a notch below the people, to restore integrity and a bright future for America. We will not do this by continuing to support those that compromise the standards by the framers of our Constitution. I would like to end with 2 quotes and a bit of advice. First quote is, find out just what the people will submit to, and you have found out the exact amount of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue until they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. And that was spoken by Frederick Douglass, civil rights activist, August 4th, 1857. The second quote is, good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. It is hardly too strong to say that the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be masters. And that was spoken by Daniel Webster. The only way we will stop the Arlen Specters, the Lindsey Grahams, the John McCains, and the Todd Platzes from compromising your values is to let the party know these candidates will no longer be tolerated. Thank you very much. That was a statement I wanted to read. And also, there were 2 people that, and this is not scripted, but there were 2 people that came up to me before the meeting and said, hey, do you read the Red State blog? And it's a conservative blog. It's a national blog. And they mentioned that there was a blog on Todd Platts, which is, it's just not us, is it? It's just not us. And actually, the blog, at the end of the blog, it says, meet Todd Platts. He represents Pennsylvania's 19th district, and he needs to be primaried. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you have an opportunity, go to redstate.com and take a look at that. On to the rest of our meeting. We're right on time at 7:20. Tonight, Beth Roberts and I, and actually, speaking of Beth, I just want to say happy birthday, Beth. Today is her happy birthday, and I'd like to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Beth. Happy birthday to you. And Allison was actually supposed to lead that, but she has a child at home, so it was passed off to me. We had dinner tonight, Beth and I, with 12 different leaders in Tea Party groups across the state. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a Tea Party leader forum. And it's going to be led off with Sam Rohr with Americans for Prosperity. But each leader is going to have 10 to 12 minutes to speak on what they've been successful with. Sam is actually going to speak on some of the legislative issues that Americans for Prosperity is working on. And then afterwards, we're going to have an opportunity for all of them to be up front here, and then you can ask questions of them. So let's start the meeting, and I'll introduce Sam Rohr with Americans for Prosperity. Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you, Scott. Thanks for all of you for being here. And I know it takes time and effort to come out to these meetings. However, a little loud here. I'm projecting.
Because they want to get the...
Oh, I see. There you go. Okay. All right. So I know it takes time and effort for all of you to come, but these are the kind of meetings that are important as they occur across the Commonwealth in locations like this all over and across the country. And I don't know about you, but I think any of us who are watching and seeing what's happening in the news and across the country, if we were concerned 2 years ago, we are even more concerned now. And we ought to be, as we are seeing an increasing effort to seemingly undermine our Constitution and to circumvent the rule of law and to impose will from Washington. At the same time, we're seeing almost a gridlock as our efforts are drawn, our thoughts are drawn to Washington, really by people who, in my opinion, are far too often on both sides just trying to voice their opinion rather than saying, what's our problem and what's the Constitution say about it? Because therein is the avenue and the pathway back to the freedom that we have lost. So if you're, whether you're talking about jobs, you're talking about international policy, you're talking about it doesn't make a difference. It really starts right there. Now tonight I'm going to give just a few minutes here from the standpoint of Americans for Prosperity and tell you what we are doing and a bit of an overview. First of all, let me ask you, how many of you here are familiar at all with anything regarding Americans for Prosperity? Okay, a good number. When I was in the House, I really was not. And when I left end of last year, I became more aware and then came on board in the end of February with the effort of putting together the Pennsylvania chapter. If you say, what is Americans for Prosperity? It really would be, in simple terms, the largest conservative grassroots organization. Actually, not even conservative, would say it's the largest grassroots organization in the country committed to the defense and the promotion of free enterprise, limited government, and individual liberty. So it would be on that kind of a focus is where it belongs. The structure is set up where there is a national group, and then there are state chapters. There are now chapters in about 30 states. About 1.8 million members, folks across the country belong to this. In Pennsylvania, there are 110,000 people who are on the AFP rolls in Pennsylvania. So I would ask you that if you have not signed up, go to the website, or there's a clipboard around here that you can sign up and become a part of alerts and updates that come out from Washington, from the national, and then also from us in the state. There are a couple of national issues that are broadly focused on by Americans for Prosperity. It was Obamacare 2 years ago. The elimination of that really is what brought the organization front and center with what most people consider to be a major forte, I guess, of the organization. But then now it's on the issue of cutting spending now. It's in cutting spending instead of raising taxes, cutting spending and cutting regulations instead of what's happening down there now. No more bailouts, no more of those kind of things. It's a part of that. And then there's a focus on developing a balanced energy policy for America, meaning we need to develop, we need to drill, and we need to responsibly deregulate for the purpose of not just job creation, but also independence for America. You cannot do anything without independence or without energy. Now, on the Pennsylvania side of the equation, we have moved forward with identifying really 5 legislative issues upon which we're embarking. And I'm going to go through just a couple of those, and I'm going to ask Katie Abram, who is our Director of Legislative Policy, to come up and explain a couple of them. One of those I'll touch on, and we built these around what we call a freedom initiative. It is our concern that we do not get behind and support bills just for the sake of it. We're tired of fluff. I was in a House for 18 years, as you know, and there's an awful lot of fluff that's dealt with that really does not in any way deal with our problems. Our concern was, let's deal with those issues related to actually increasing freedom, and by so doing, then the effort that we expend becomes valuable and it becomes worthwhile. So we also identified things we think that we can win. It's important to get some things passed in this legislature, which is now Republican, for which there is no excuse that good legislation is not now accomplished. One of the areas we picked on or identified first is one that deals with local government freedom. It's House Bill 83. It's a bill that Representative Pyle now has. It's in the Appropriations Committee, but it deals with unfunded mandates. One of the major reasons why taxes are high locally is that there are unfunded mandates passed down by Harrisburg for which there is no money. This bill simply would allow local governments, counties, townships, and school boards to, by their opting in, to suspend the application of a host of regulations, including, but not limited to by any means, things such as prevailing wage, which is the most costly of all unfunded mandates in this Commonwealth. A suspension for 5 years. And really, at the end of 5 years, you'll find out that we can get by without these regulations. That's the first one. The second one is the issue of property tax elimination. I think David Baldinger is going to talk more on this specifically, but you and I know, I mean, this was an issue that we fought hard on for many years in the House. Property tax elimination is absolutely critical from the standpoint of home ownership, from the standpoint of individual freedom. No one owns their property right now. As long as we pay and we're linked to property taxes ever increasing, no one ever owns their property. I think it's a moral issue. I think it's a constitutional issue, and it's certainly a freedom issue. And then the third one that we're moving forward on is on developing an educational or an energy policy. You know, Pennsylvania is the home to perhaps the greatest amount of energy in the country. We have more natural gas under the ground than any state. We have more coal than almost any state. And oil was first found here in Pennsylvania. Energy made Pennsylvania what it was. It brought in the Industrial Revolution. It created our jobs. And now, because of regulations from Washington primarily, it's almost impossible to dig coal out of the mine, to drill, or to develop our vast gas fields. So we are putting together an energy plan, a basic educational effort, where we will be taking this, rolling it out on college campuses beginning the first week of November. We're going to start in the University of Scranton. We're going to go to Temple University. We're going to go to Bucknell. We're going to go to Penn State. We're going to go to Clarion University, and we're going to go to University of Pittsburgh and take the issue of the lies that have been told relative to energy development and this nonsense about green energy. And I won't say green all nonsense, but obviously you know what I'm standing, the fact that we have energy, we can responsibly develop it, and we must, and take it right to our places of higher learning where, frankly, the kids, by and large, are getting a totally opposite view of what really ought to be. So that's going to be a major initiative that will be taking place first week of November, and then there will be a rollout of this across the state as we're going in. So we've taken those issues, all related to freedom, one aspect or another. With that, I'm going to stop. Katie, would you like to come forward? Katie is our Director of Legislative Policy, and she'll give you an update on two other issues. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. This is much more enjoyable than the Occupy Harrisburg meeting I went to last week. Much better crowd. Okay, well, the next legislative item that we're tackling is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is regarding Obamacare. We currently have 3 different outcomes that have occurred in the courts. One where Obamacare was ruled constitutional, one where it was ruled unconstitutional, and in Virginia it was basically thrown out. So in the state of Pennsylvania, we are pushing for the initiative of House Bill 42, which is the Freedom of Choice in Healthcare Act. Simply put, it would nullify the individual mandate in the state of Pennsylvania. So you would be protected from Obamacare whether you chose to partake in buying health insurance or not. That's pretty much the simplest way of explaining that. Second, the state of Pennsylvania is not a right-to-work state, and I know with the Berks County Patriots, this is number one on their list. It would be right-to-work bills. House Bills 50 through 53, sponsored by Darrell Metcalf and 3 other House representatives. At this point, we do know that the House of Representatives is not going to be pushing right-to-work. They want to nibble around the edges with prevailing wage bills, which we are definitely supportive of. But I think this is something that's going to have to come from the bottom up, from the ground and the grassroots to be able to get this kind of legislation passed. And the last thing would be Senate Bill 1040, which is the Public Worker Paycheck Protection Act. And essentially what this would do is it would make it illegal for the government to withdraw money from any private entity. That would be along the lines of, well, any public or private organization that withdraws dues, per se, out of people's paychecks, because there's an unholy alliance, basically, between the government and some of these private organizations that taxpayers are footing the bill for. And also one more thing, we do send out to leaders across the state and also post on our website a legislative update, not only from the federal government, but also from Harrisburg. So while we are in session, the House is in session, this comes out every week, and I believe, Scott, you are on the list. You'll have to let me know. I don't know where you went. And that a lot of the leaders, what they do is they'll let you guys know what's going on in the state. So if there's any specific things that you want to take action on, and if you guys are interested in needing some help in those things, please let us know, and we are more than happy to help in any initiatives you guys are interested in doing. Thank you very much. And there is a sign-up sheet going around right now. If you do want to receive our emails on any action alerts that are happening in the Capitol, please sign up for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Also, she did not mention the Citizen Action. Did you mention this? The Citizen Action Handbook. This is located up front. It's free. Please take one. Americans for Prosperity is a great group. They're trying to tie together the Tea Party and 912 organizations in the state and still keep the organizations autonomous. So, and they're doing a lot of good work. So we do have some good organizations statewide, and AFP is one of them. The next person up on the agenda is Jeff Trish, leader of the Adams 912 Patriots.
Good evening, folks. I don't usually have a problem in front of crowds. I spent a lot of years as a singer-songwriter. I sang and played my music in front of larger crowds than this, smaller crowds than this. So I don't usually get nervous in front of people. I usually don't have a hard time speaking in front of people. But it's going to be a little rough tonight, the way they're trying to jam Mitt Romney down my throat. But folks, I don't have much to say as a leader because I don't view myself as a leader. I view everybody that comes to our meetings as the leaders. I'm just the organizer. If I spend all that time organizing our meetings where a bunch of people just want to come for entertainment, I'm wasting my time. So I'm not the leader. You are. And that's the way we approach it in Adams County. If you come to one of my meetings, you better be prepared to take what you learn and put it to work. If you don't, what's the point? We're spinning our wheels. Nothing will get done. If you don't take this to your family, if you don't take this to your neighbors, if you don't take this to your friends, again, what's the point? What we do is I organize guest speakers to come and they kind of lead the leaders. Now we get some characters. Let me remind you. Last month we had a guy named Sam Rohr. Month before that we had this fellow named David Baldinger. Where's David at? There he is. And we gave David a whole night. You need to do that. Are you going to tell him the number of the bill, or can I? Go ahead. David got a number for his bill for property tax reorganization, shall we call it? Replacement and elimination. Guess what the number of the bill is? 1776. If that's not God at work, what is, hey? Amen. But now, we've also had, in July, we had Sheriff Mack come in. We had a full house that night. And that might have been the downfall of us meeting at that hotel room, because they told us we can't meet there anymore. They don't like the parking problem we cause. God closes one door, he opens up another one. We will be moving to Cross Keys in January 2012. Yes, the banquet room behind the restaurant. We got that whole parking lot back there for nothing else but us. That parks many, many cars. And it's even very close to you guys. And they told us they would put us on the marquee on Route 30. I hate that idea. I mean, they gave us a list of stuff that they're just going to really take care of us. They are all for what we're doing. So I told everybody last month, don't panic, don't worry. This could be a blessing in disguise, and it truly is. This coming month, actually next Thursday night, but this is in Gettysburg now, Cross Keys. In Gettysburg at 1863 in Gettysburg, we have Derek Howe coming. Derek Howe is an instructor from the Institute on the Constitution. I love to use them guys. They're out of Pasadena, Maryland, and they're more than willing to come and speak. We had one of their leaders, Michael Peruka, also come, and he's scheduled to come again in September or December. So that's what we do. We bring these kind of people in to teach us and make the leaders better leaders. But what I offer you tonight is if you're going to work to preserve freedom, you have to look at where we came from. This world, the history, it's constantly men enslaving men. It looks like we're going back to that. When our founding fathers came along and they gave us the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, we have individual freedoms, and we got away from men enslaving men. Now, why do men continually to enslave? Why did they do that? Why are men drawn to enslave other men? Why does history keep repeating itself like this? I'd like to read to you a verse out of Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. Folks, flesh and blood passes away. Generation after generation fails, decays. These demonic powers just continue. These demonic powers want nothing more than men to enslave men. So generation after generation, we forget. We don't learn what these demonic powers do. Now, why would demonic powers want men to enslave men? All you have to do is look at rule number 1. What is the first commandment? Thou shalt have no other God before thee. if we have a tyrant, if we have a dictator, if we have a king, we have a God before us. These tyrants, these dictators, these kings, they set themselves up as gods. If these demonic forces can cause us to disobey rule number 1, what do they care about 2 through 10? We struggle not against flesh and blood, folks. But God gave us a plan. Back in 2 Chronicles, verse 7, God says, if the people who are called by his name humble themselves and pray and seek his face and turn from their wicked ways, then they will hear from heaven, and he will forgive their sins, and he will heal their land. Folks, I saw the prayer meeting before the group tonight. It was about, what, 6 people? 4 people. Are you serious? Do you want your land to be healed or not? I urge you to come together in prayer. I urge you to humble yourself. I encourage you to seek your Lord's face. God bless.
Thank you, Jeff. As most of you know, Jeff, we helped him start his group, and actually I think he's almost doing a better job than our group is right now. And we appreciate all he's done for Adams County and with York County, actually, because Adams County and York County are kind of tied together by an umbilical cord. But thank you, Jeff. That was very, very inspiring. Please make it a point to try and go to their meetings because they're just down the road, just down 3rd, and they're going to be a lot closer when they move to Cross Keys after the first of the year. So thank you, Jeff. Our next gentleman that would like to speak, and actually there's 2 gentlemen. There's 2 gentlemen from the Berks County Patriots, and in our agenda it says Berks Country Patriots, and it says Ron Miller. And unfortunately, our representative, Ron Miller, will not be here tonight, but Rod has some things to say about Ron Miller, I believe, but I'll let him say those things. Rod Miller and Ray Bustard. Ray, are you going to come up, or are you going to let Rod do all the talking? That's unusual. Actually, Rod said he was going to give us a song and dance this evening, so be entertained.
No song and dance. You're in for the letdown there. You know, from a personal note, I must tell you, my group, which I'll tell you something about us, but myself personally, I talked one night, we had, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500, and I mentioned to the group, I said, you know, I don't really know I'm even on this board, and I'm the vice chairman, by the way. I said, I'm a senior citizen. I said, I'm just hanging around waiting for the call. And my buddy's there on the microphone. He says, trust me, your phone is ringing. So, but I corrected him because I got an actuarial deal in the email, and it said, fill out all the answers and find out how long you're going to live. So I sat there and I did all the answers. Well, how old are you? What's your weight? Do you wear your seatbelt? Do you smoke? All this stuff. I did all that and punched in. I said, I'm going to be living to 94. I said, holy cripes, I'm doing this for myself. So, okay, how did we get started? Well, I can tell you, going back in 2009, we decided to stand in front of the Reading Post Office on tax day. In fact, I dressed up as Uncle Sam and had my 1776 flag, and the photographers and the write-ups were there, and we got off the ground. And from there, we decided to have some meetings and see if we can't get started. And I think it was October, November that year, 2009, we finally had some seed money. Some of the board members and 1 or 2 from the audience put in some sizable donations, so we had something to work with. So now we had money. How are we going to deal with this? We decided to run ads in the merchandisers. We had people calling in on the talk radio and get us PR. And we rented the Leesport Market Hall and said, well, we put up quite a few $100s. I hope they show up to help pay the bill. Well, we hooked the first meeting. We had Colonel Frank Ryan to speak on economy. Excellent man, by the way. If you ever want a speaker to talk economics, you want to get him. And Sam Rohr was also on the agenda. Well, we left them come, and we left them come, until it was all over. We filled the place. We had 800 people in the building, and we forced them to walk down the sides to have room for more to come in. Finally, Lehigh or Allentown TV station was there, and they asked me to go out and talk to them, and I did. And I made my comments that Washington thinks we're going to spend ourselves out of this depression, and it ain't going to happen. And that's about what they put on the news. But I went outside, and my gosh, there was another 200 people out there, and I said, we just can't let you in. So we thought we had something, and that was, of course, the pinnacle. After that, I was on a Saturday. From then on, we had to meet on Thursdays because the market building was booked up every Saturday. So the crowd diminished a little, but we still, on a good night, put 400 or 500 in a meeting. And generally, the way we accomplish this is we run our ads, we do the talk show route, and we put a flyer together and announce our ads. In fact, while I'm at it, we have our next meeting. Always meet the third Thursday, and we put a flyer out. Looks like this. There's a pile up there. You're welcome to take them in case you wanted to come, because the next meeting we have on October the 20th, Representative Darrell Metcalf will speak, and we put in his 3 headliner subjects, which were illegal aliens, voter ID, and English, the official language. Then we have a county commissioner going to speak a little bit, and the sheriff will speak on the Castle Doctrine. But that's the way our monthly meetings go for our advertising and how we get a crowd in there. And the way we get the crowd in is, of course, we have a marquee speaker. And I won't go through all the meetings, but just give me an idea how we get somebody to speak on a monthly basis to draw people's attention. And as they said earlier, there's an awful lot of people come to the entertainment of it all and aren't really worker bees, but you need to have them. You need to get them educated. Hopefully on Voters' Day, if nothing else, they'll do the right thing. But anyway, after that, we started with I guess we also had the bus trip prior to that too, where we went down to the D.C. protest. We had about 4 buses there. And after that, we started, like I said, Frank Ryan and Sam Rohr was part of that agenda. And then we went with R.J. Harris, the DJ from Harrisburg. Katie spoke, that was when she was the hot subject, when she stuck her nose in Specter's nose, and he didn't like it. So we thought the timing was right to have Katie there. We had to meet the candidates night. We even had a summer picnic. Not an easy thing to do if you do it right, between all the gathering door prizes and food and agenda, and we even booked an orchestra, and it was a great time. We had a family preparedness center where we had people there. We even had what's his name, Pratt from the Gun Owners of America. He explained how do you deal with self-protection. We had a woman there with silver coins and whatever, in fact, bar silver, to talk about money backup. We had discussion on food supplies. So all in all, it was across the board. If things are going the way they're going and they're going to keep going that way, you might want to think about being prepared for it. So that was educational. We had Loman Henry from the Lincoln Institute. Then we had a candidate night. In fact, Sam emceed the candidate night. Congressmen, state senators, and then we had Nate Benfield from Commonwealth Foundation. We had an evening where we honored the veterans, where we had our own veterans speak, and then we collected toys for the veterans, and we were overwhelmed. We couldn't get them all in one truck, and they were delivered all over Berks County to veterans' children. We had Anna Pugh then and Simon Campbell, who spoke on teacher strikes. Meet the Mayors. We had another family preparedness, and David Baldinger then. We booked him to talk on property tax, and Bill Bin also spoke, who has a book he authored, Masters of Audacity and Deceit, a takeoff from the J. Edgar Hoover's Masters of Deceit, which I happen to have that book, and he was surprised when he mentioned that. I says, I know the book, I have it. So we had Bill Ryle speak on nullification, and then we had a how-to seminar where Katie taught people how to do Twitter. David Baldinger expressed how you're going to deal with these politicians to get this property tax moving forward. And our own Rich Shooker spoke on how to deal with letter writing and communicating with politicians. Of course, like I said, this month, Metcalf. And then next month, I think we're going to do more on property tax to get people up to date. Okay, what else do we do besides meetings? First of all, mention right to work. 2 minutes, okay? Right to work. Ray Boster's our steward of a right to work resolution. We produced the resolution. We hand carried up to Harrisburg. We hand delivered it to 25 members of the L&I committee. Gave them cards to fill out, telling us where they stood. I'm for, I'm against, I'm undecided. Of the 25, we got 4 back. 2 of them from Berks County. We got nothing from York, Lebanon, Lancaster, so keep that in mind. After that, I testified before the L&I committee on right to work, and I would argue that our effort prompted them, Ron Miller, for example, to have the hearing. I don't look at him as a particular friend of right to work, but nonetheless, they finally called a hearing. I was the last one to speak at the hearing, and to be honest, I'm the only one that quoted from the Constitution. Stephanie Stefano mentioned the Constitution, but everybody else talked economics. It's not economics, folks. It's Constitution. The right to work. 1903, Erdman versus Mitchell. The judge even proclaimed after he made his ruling that no legislature nor any organization has the right to interfere with a man's ability to seek and gain employment. After that, in 35 or 37, the Wagner Act said every state can unionize. Well, folks, to me, I thought the 10th Amendment should have been invoked right there by the states. They have no right to tell a state how to run its labor force. Nonetheless, Taft-Hartley came along, and Taft-Hartley said any state wants to, they can pass a right-to-work law where you have the option. 1903, I thought the judge said we have the right. I'm surprised that years later we're told if we pass a law we can have it again. Our politicians don't get it. They simply don't get it. In fact, those that testified don't get it. The left was arguing we need control of the workforce to get best wages and product and benefits. The right was arguing we need the opportunity for better employment, better opportunities, so we need a right to work state. Folks, neither side gets it. When I gave my testimony, I quoted from the Constitution, and I told them flat out on Article 1, Sections 1 and 26, I quoted from it. I don't have time to do it tonight, but if somebody wants to hear it, I'll quote it. But when I was through, I didn't even get a question from the 14 reps. They don't know if I was lying or not because they don't know the Constitution either. But that's the sad tale of woe. That's the group I had to face. Beyond that, I'll just touch briefly until I get the Major Bowes gong. But we also have the resolution on property tax. I'll let David talk about that. But our man was going around to every meeting possible. Listen to Seth Grove. Seth is your problem, folks. He's your problem. He's in York. He's not in Berks County. He's doing a dog and pony show all over the state, and he's throwing numbers out that are totally skewed, totally wrong. And our man did his research, and we did our research. Every place he goes, we go, and we rebut him. And things are changing. He started out by saying the first night at Birdsboro in Reading, outside of Reading, that it'll take 15% income, sales tax to balance the $14 billion in property tax. The next time he spoke, he said 7%. The last time he spoke just the other evening, our man was there, it was 9%. He doesn't know. He's throwing numbers out and see what sticks. If you have people in the audience can rebut these things, the audience will understand. And once the audience understands, things will change. But you need to deal with this gentleman because he's going around the state throwing numbers around that are totally untrue. And unless we put our foot down and change things and let people know that they're untrue, he's going to continue with his dog and pony show, and it's not going to be good. I have other things to say. Maybe there'll be questions later, but thank you. Incidentally, the 2 resolutions I mentioned, there's piles of them up here. Take them with you.
Thank you, Rod. First, the Berks Patriots do a great job with their legislative committee. They have about 15 to 20 active people in their legislative committee, and they've done a great job with that, and they are people that we can learn from. The next person up is Joe Totella with the Hanover Tea Party Patriots. Thank you, Joe.
Hello, my name's Joe Totella. I'm here on behalf of the Hanover Tea Party Patriots. I'm one of the group's co-founders. My partner in crime is Andy Edmonds, but unfortunately he had to cancel at the last minute. He had to be somewhere else tonight, but he's here with us in spirit, of course. I wanted to start off by thanking the York 912 Patriots for all of their great work in general, and on behalf of liberty and the Constitution, but for putting this together in particular. I think it's an important meeting to have. It was an excellent idea, and I speak for our entire membership when I say that I'm excited and honored to be a part of it. You know, we're sometimes thought of in joking terms as York's hillbilly cousins to the west. You know, the hillbilly farmers in our little small town. But the truth is we see York 912 in a lot of ways as our sort of a big brother organization. And you know, a big brother, you sometimes borrow stuff from them, you copy things from them, you certainly look up to them, but you can still maintain your own identity and do your own thing. So that's sort of the way we see things. So moving on, I wanted to open up by sharing a quick joke with you guys. I promise it's not too raunchy. I definitely won't get a National Endowment of the Arts Award for it or anything. So a Marine squad in Iraq is marching north of Fallujah, and they come upon an Iraqi insurgent who's badly injured and unconscious. On the opposite side of the road, there's an American Marine in a similar but less serious state. The Marine was conscious and alert, and as first aid was given to both the men, the squad leader asked the injured Marine, "What happened?" The Marine reported, "I was heavily armed and moving north along the highway here, and coming south was a heavily armed Iraqi fighter. We saw each other and both took cover in the ditches along the road. I yelled to him that Saddam Hussein was a miserable, low-life scumbag who got what he deserved. And he yelled back that Barack Obama is a lying, good-for-nothing, left-wing commie who isn't even an American. So I said, oh yeah? Well, Osama bin Laden is an insane egomaniac who dresses and acts like a frigid, mean-spirited lesbian. He retaliated by yelling, oh yeah? Well, so does Nancy Pelosi. So there we were in the middle of the road shaking hands when a truck came along and hit us. So it's a pretty funny story, but you know, with most good jokes, I think there's a more important underlying message that's hidden in it, and that message is that it's the same message of tonight's meeting. I believe we all have more in common, even with our enemies, those that are real or imagined, than we might realize. And so, if we can find that common ground with even our sworn mortal enemies, then why can't we find it, and better yet, use it among our own liberty-minded brethren? But I understand where our challenges lie. To be conservative and liberty-minded individual or a group is to be fiercely independent, largely self-reliant, It makes it, at first, hard for us to unite and work together because we are independent, certainly opinionated. Euphemistically speaking, that would be principled by nature. As I often tell people about organizing our own group in Hanover, getting conservatives together is much like herding cats. But if we alter our thinking just a little bit and call to mind the Muslim and the Marine, the sworn enemies on the battlefield, if even they can find common ground, then surely we can. I think most of us know our starting point, the grassy knoll of commonality where we all agree. We all have our common enemies or enemy. We know what their agenda looks like. But besides agreeing on the common enemy, we agree on so much at the fundamental level. So at that note, I'd just like to share with you the Hanover Tea Party Patriots' own mission statement. And as I do, feel free to ask yourselves how many of these items reflect my own goals or my organization's beliefs, how many of them are driving purposes for what I'm doing. Our mission statement: to support and defend the United States Constitution, to advance individual liberty, economic freedom, and limited government, to hold elected officials accountable, and to preserve, protect, and advance the principles and policies that protect the rights and liberties of individuals, families, and states, to provide ideas, suggestions, concerns, and solutions for America's future, to inform, register, and mobilize voters, to encourage more active knowledge of and participation in state, local, and federal government, to encourage charity and community involvement while developing skills in a community of self-sufficiency and independence. That last one especially has been the focus of ours lately, and it's a big thing I want to talk about tonight. Generally speaking, our group has made somewhat of a shift in its direction, a pivot away from the oftentimes frustrating and divisive world of politics and activism to one that focuses more strictly and more practically on the community. So what the Hanover Tea Party Patriots are currently focusing on, our new direction, we're now looking to practically apply our liberty and independence-based principles and beliefs directly into local efforts. Namely, we want to do more towards setting up our meetings, events, and activities to revolve more around local independence. That is to say, decreasing our dependence on the government and, of course, their pimps, those evil corporations. So that we are better empowered to provide for ourselves, to provide those things that we're perfectly capable of providing for ourselves, if we only put our minds to it. This focus includes things like home gardening and farming, self-sufficiency with regard to food, water, property, employment, trade, whatever it may be, whenever it may be possible, independence, sustainability, and that's a word that we're taking back from the liberals who've hijacked it. The liberals don't have a monopoly on that word. And even survivalism, which is not a dirty word either. This new focus includes holding meetings and how-to seminars on such things as gardening, square foot or otherwise, canning, hunting, and field dressing game, brewing beer, Sam Adams would be proud, buying and storing food, sound investment, modifying land and property, first aid and medical information, landscape, construction, and property maintenance. And perhaps just for starters, we'd like to develop a regular program where all of our members and interested parties would be able to meet on a regular basis to barter, sell, or share vegetables, animals, tools, guns, equipment, knowledge, skills, and resources. We have quite a few talented members in our group, farmers, mechanics, talents and backgrounds of all kind, to start us with a good working foundation. So we're pretty optimistic about these endeavors. So does this sound all a bit crackpotted to you? Perhaps a bit, flippy, dippy, hippie, or utopian or something? Perhaps on the surface it might, but I think it's only because we've been so conditioned. We've been so conditioned to accept that the status quo is the status quo. We've forgotten how to stand on our own 2 feet, not just politically, but in life, in our actual day-to-day living. So let's face it, the dollar is pretty sick right now. And there's a bill that's yet to come due. And that big fat debt bubble that's near to bursting thanks to the drug addict-like spending coming out of Washington, it's not going to hold up forever. I think we all know this, in some part of our hearts or our heads. A lot of us might still be suffering from what's known as normalcy bias, which is it's the belief that things are always going to continue the way that they are right now. Throughout history, this has happened to a lot of people. Nazi Germany is probably the most famous example of it, where a lot of Jews were kind of caught unaware because they'd say, this won't happen to me, this can't really be happening. Well, I would suggest that the situation with our economy has a lot of people in normalcy bias right now. So when that bubble bursts, who will we be able to count on? The government? Would be my second joke of the night. The people will really need to rely on and safeguard ourselves, our families, and our communities. It's going to be us alone. Those of us with the foresight to prepare for it and the spirit and drive to take action and do something about it, with the knowledge and the willingness to network with each other and to work together, we're going to be the ones who preserve liberty and preserve the Constitution. That is the new direction that our group is taking. Yes, we'll still do our voter registration drives, host political speakers, meetings. We will still do everything that we've done up to this point, but this is our new major undertaking to become more self-sufficient. For us, for the Hanover Tea Party Patriots, despite our individual or group differences among ourselves or with other groups, we will always value, strive for, and defend what we believe to be our common principles. Fidelity to the Constitution, fidelity to the Founding Fathers and their principles, the rights and freedoms of the individual, God-given rights, and the rights of families and the states over the federal government. We believe in American sovereignty, exceptionalism, innovation, entrepreneurialism, and free market capitalism, life, liberty, and pursuing happiness, and all those truths that are self-evident. From here on out, we're putting our belief in liberty and independence into action, not just in politics and in education, but in our very lives, in the way we live, in our subsistence, and into our plans for the future. We hope to do these things with you, my friends, to maintain the focus on what we share in our values and our principle and knowledge, while also sharing our skills, resources, and strengths as we work towards our common goals, be they for political ends or for survival itself. Thank you.
I like their new direction. I'd like to talk to Joe afterwards and maybe partner up on some of these surviving skills. Because we do have very good groups in this area, in this Adams County and York County area, and I'd like to include your meetings on our schedule, and I'd like to include Adams County meetings on our schedule, and actually the Central PA Tea Party Patriots of Central PA. Now, the next person up is Lorraine Cummings from the Scranton Tea Party. Lorraine came down from Scranton today to talk to you, so she had quite a drive. So welcome her warmly, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for holding this today. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Lorraine Cummings. I started the Scranton Tea Party in 2009, along with probably all of you. Why did I start? Well, kind of like what Jeff was saying, I am an organizer, and I get other people to come in and get involved, and then I try and start other groups. So we have two offshoots of our group that I kind of twisted my members' arms to start their groups because we just got too big and I couldn't handle everything. So now we have Scranton Tea Party, Carbondale Tea Party, and Troop Tea Party. We just launched on Constitution Day our TNT group, which is our teens and 20s group. Brandon Posner and Tom Smith are actually members of that, and we're trying to get more and more of our youth involved in that, and we call it TNT for a reason, because they are our TNT, obviously. They have more energy, and they get out the vote. So hopefully if anybody has anybody in your groups that's interested in getting into the younger groups, please send them over to TNT and to Troop Tea Party. Why did I get involved to begin with? Well, I guess I have to tell you a little bit about myself real quick. My birth mother wasn't able to raise me, but she chose life. I was raised by a foster mother and father who were devout Catholics, but I became a teen mom at the age of 16 of twins, and decided to go back to school and graduated from nursing school on my own and with some help from my family. Worked really hard, got married again, had 2 other children, and ended up getting divorced, finding myself a mom of 4 children with a home. What do? You have 2 choices. You have welfare or you work. So I worked 7 days a week, kept my home, raised my children, and fast forward 10 years later, started a business and was growing that business. But what happened was I started realizing as a Democrat at the time, what is going on with these taxes and workers' comp. I mean, I had girls coming into my office. I run a nursing agency, and I try and give single moms jobs. This is my big mission in life. And I try to help patients so that they don't have to pay a lot of money. That was my missionary work as a born-again Christian. So I would have girls coming into my office saying, you know, I want to work, but I can't work more than 25 hours a week because if I do, I lose my Title 20. And I said, well, why? The Title 20 is how they get daycare. I'd say, why? Well, that's just the rules. So there's punishment in working. There's punishment in taxes. And I started getting very frustrated. And then as the economy got worse in 2007, I started, probably as many of you, going on the internet, which is our savior, I believe. I think that if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't have half of the people awake, including myself, as we do today. So I'm very grateful for that. Started finding information about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and things that I was shocked by. And not just Democrats, but also Republicans. Things that I could not believe was actually happening in politics. So that's what started to get my ire up, and I started talking to groups on the internet. I joined Puma. I joined any, Read My Lipstick, any group I can join. And then, of course, Rick Santelli's rant got us all joined together. So since then, what I've been trying to do is, as the Scranton Tea Party organizer, is educate the public. Because I was one of those uneducated voters. I was one of those people that thought, well, I did my patriotic duty and I voted, because I just always voted. But when I was a Democrat, I voted the way my parents told me, which was, you have to vote for the little guy because they're the Democrats, you cannot pull any other lever. They are for the little people. That's all they teach you when you're a Democrat. When you're a Republican, it's much harder, because you actually have to know the issues, and you have to know what's happening, and you have to know the Constitution, and you have to know where you came from and where you're going. You have to know what your goals are in life. And it's just such a different life. It's kind of like when before you're saved and after you're saved. Everyone knows that feeling and that change that you get in your life. So some of the things that I teach people about is America is a republic. I do have the flyers here for anyone, and they are on the Scranton Tea Party website. I read both cap and trade bill and the health care bill. Now, we had 3 bills altogether. The first 2 are the ones that I read. We do have a synopsis of those, but we worked together with Team Sarah on reading those bills. But I thought, well, what good is it for me to read it? Other people need to know what's in it. So I have a flyer on cap and trade, and just to give you an idea of what's on this, it's a wake-up flyer, and this says to destroy your pellet and wood-burning stoves, and that's for the entire United States. So just so if you want to reference it on the bill, it's here. The sources are here where you could find that information. There's also a section where it tells you where you're allowed to plant trees on your property. You have to sign a 5-year contract for it with the government. They reimburse you for the trees. These are crazy. This is crazy talk. I mean, does anybody ever think that their government would be trying to tell you where to put your trees on your yard to save energy? That's insane. No wonder why people think we're all crazy in the Tea Party, because we tell them this stuff and they look at us like, you're nuts. So I had to put it in writing, just so they would believe what I was telling them. And I gave them the sources, and I gave them the references, and you can go on the internet now and look it up. So that's why I say thank you for the internet. But this is also up there. Anybody is welcome to make copies or download them from Scranton Tea Party. Now, what we've been working on recently is Lois Konashecki started the Precinct Project. And I got very involved with that, getting all of our members involved, all of our church members. So if anyone here is not familiar with the Precinct Project, please get yourself familiar. Run for office. Take over the committee seats in your area. It takes one vote, yours. You can write your name in on the ballot, and you can win. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, please make sure you educate yourself. Lois Konashecki is online. Precinct Project, you can find it throughout the internet. If you don't know, call me, I'll help you. I will come and show you how I did it down in Lackawanna County. And for me to start that project in the most liberal area and county in Pennsylvania, it was not easy. Trust me, we actually had secret meetings. I mean, we were afraid to tell people what we were doing. So, sorry. What else are we working on? Sorry, I'm getting a cold. I thought I'd make it through the speech, but we'll see. So, Precinct Project led me into helping other candidates. This is going to be tough. Sorry. We started to help door to door, getting people involved and getting them interested. And thank you. Sorry that happened. Sorry. We'll see if that helps. Oh my God, how embarrassing. Anyway, so we started going door to door and meeting more people that were looking to get involved with the Tea Party. So then I thought, well, wait a minute, this Precinct Project is a really good setup. Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll set up the Tea Party as the Republican Party. So we have block captains, we have people that are in charge of their own blocks, who try and get other Tea Party members involved, get them educated. Whatever we're working on, we hand out to those precinct captains, and then they can get their neighbors involved. We try and get people on voter registration for anybody that's new that's in the area. Kind of like the Republican Party, but we're not, because honestly, I'm very disappointed in some of the people that we've already elected, but we knew that. So I think what our goal in 2010 was to just get as many people in there as we could that were not establishment and get the establishment out, be them Democrat or Republican. I think you guys all did a great job. I think we all did. 2012 is so important. We must win 2012. We have to. I mean, there isn't even an option. A lot of people are complaining about the people we did elect in 2010, but they were sent there to toe the line. There's nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. They just can't get it through because they only have a quarter of the House. You know, we don't have the Senate. And now Barack Obama was out there yesterday. I was watching Glenn Beck, and he's out there saying, you know what, we're going to subvert the Congress. And he's talking to his Jobs Council, telling his Jobs Council, you read this jobs bill and try and get past whatever you can without the Congress. This is how unbelievable these people are. So they are just out of control. They have been out of control, but we know it now. That's the difference. And we can change it. But we all need to be a part of it. We all need to work together. We all need to try and get into these committee seats. We all need to try and run for office. We all need to try and get elected. And I'm, running out of time. I'm going to get kicked off the podium. I'm sorry. I get so passionate about this stuff because it seems like a lifetime ago that we started working on this. And I never, ever thought I would be doing this kind of work. I'm a nurse. I thought I'd be retired at 45. Oh, yes. I don't even talk about my own candidacy because I get tied up in this stuff. But I have decided to run for the United States Senate against Bob Casey. Thank you very much. And I hope that you all decide to run in Congress. Congress is coming up in 2012. Get somebody to run. Get out there, educate the people. If you need any help from Scranton, please give me a call. I am so appreciative of the fact that We're now going to have a state-run office. So I think Steve is going to be talking about that, but Steve is going to try and get all of the PA Tea Party leaders together and, joined. We need each other. We need to help. We need to get out there. And I went to Occupy Scranton's rally. I would like to pass these out to you only because I am such a rebel, let me tell you. Last night I went to their meeting with Katie. It's like we're all alike, every one of us. We all think the same. So I thought, I want to know what they're doing out there. So I went to their meeting. They didn't know who I was, and I just stood there. And it was the AFL-CIO leader. There was SEIU leaders. And there was about, I'm telling you, it was pouring rain. They had 2 tents already for the courthouse. Now, for the Scranton Tea Party to get that courthouse, we have 2 weeks' notice we have to give them. They had it instantly in 2 days. So, I mean, you knew somebody was paying for it. But anyway, they were handing out these flyers. Look at how nice they are. These are on waterproof paper, okay? They had boxes and boxes of them. And what does it say on the top? Workers' rights. On the right, corporations out of politics, national health care reform, Occupy at noon, October 5th, Scranton Courthouse, which I will be there with the table, by the way. And I will be passing out my flyers that say wake up and what's on them, and I will be telling them what I've been telling my Tea Party members all these years. So, I'm not afraid of them, but God help me because, I'm sticking my neck out there again. Anyway, one of the things that they were telling their kids, which if you could please tell your kids this is not true, that business owners have to go to city council to get their business permits, and they're told that they cannot pay $11 an hour, they have to pay minimum wage. That is an outright lie. And until people start running a business on their own, they're not going to know this stuff. So these kids are being lied to the big time, and that's one of the things they're telling them. As a business owner, I make up the prices. And I do have a flyer here. Please see me afterwards. It's a paycheck, and it's about the fair tax, and I will tell you exactly how taxes work in a really easy and simple way so you know how to fight back when they're talking about taxes. Took up enough of your time. Thank you so much. So great to be here.
Thank you, Lorraine. And please pick up one of her flyers, and this Occupy whatever city is a scary thing, and it's something we have to keep track of. The next person up on the agenda is Steve Ulrich with the Tea Party Patriots of Central PA. Steve and his wife Emily are here, and Emily is a state committee member, a Republican state committee member also. So please welcome Steve.
Thanks, Scott, for the introduction. Scott and I got to know each other a little bit, pretty well at Republican State Committee. I'm a Republican State Committee person, but that's a different matter altogether. I'll go into that at another time. I'd like to thank the York 912 for introducing me and also having the Tea Party Patriots gathering here. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. I'm from Harrisburg. Actually, I'm from north of Harrisburg a little bit in Perry County. I was born and raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My parents, my dad's a surgeon in Harrisburg, and I got involved in politics right after I got out of college. I was graduated in 1990 from college. Got involved with the Young Republicans with a friend of mine, and from there I developed quite a sense of what political gamesmanship is all about. And many of you, including Rick Santelli, found out what political gamesmanship is all about. But a lot of us in the Tea Party are sick of political gamesmanship. It's not a game, is it? When you talk about property taxes, when you talk about the life issue, when you talk about any particular issue, the politicians aren't playing games. And we got to know that very quickly in the last 2.5, 3 years with Barack Obama. Let me tell you a little bit about my political background. I was involved with the Christian Coalition back in 1997. I became their office manager in Harrisburg. I ran the office. I did all the grunt work for the state of Pennsylvania. We had at the time 26 chapters of the Christian Coalition throughout the state of Pennsylvania. I ran a newsletter, I did fundraising, I've done a lot of different activities. So in some respects, it gave me the opportunity for an outlet for my own political aspirations, or not necessarily my personal aspirations, but for the conservative cause and the conservative movement in general. I loved the job. It was great. After a few years, the Christian Coalition kind of frittered away like a lot of conservative movements go. And now fast forward 8 years later, when the Tea Party movement, and Rick Santelli, as many of you referred to, ran, goes. And I looked around for Tea Parties in my area, which is Central Pennsylvania area. And I'm sure a lot of you did the same thing. Got on the internet, looked for other groups that were involved, and I didn't find any in Central Pennsylvania. Harrisburg. Harrisburg is a huge area when it comes to politics. But if you live in the Harrisburg, Central Pennsylvania area for any amount of time, you find out where the strings are pulled in Harrisburg. The strings are pulled through lobbyists, through political patronage, through this person knows that person, and therefore I'm not going to do anything about it. So I looked around for a Tea Party in Central Pennsylvania, and I didn't find one. So what did I do? I started my own, like many of you did in your own area, like Lorraine did. I was one of the founders and directors of the Tea Party Patriots of Central Pennsylvania. I'm on their steering committee, and we meet the second Monday of every month. And I'm happy to help them do it. But my vision for the Tea Parties goes way beyond just my own local backyard. I'd just like to share with you a vision for Pennsylvania, which I have recently formulated. And I started a different group, similar to the Tea Party Patriots of Central Pennsylvania, but with a little bit broader of a scope. Lorraine referenced it. I would like to share with you a letter that I've written an open letter to everybody in the Tea Party Patriots movement here in Pennsylvania. I'd like to share with you a concern and driving passion of mine. I would like to unify the Pennsylvania Tea Party Patriot movement. This single goal is not achievable without your help. The Tea Party Patriot movement in Pennsylvania has been fragmented and disjointed since its inception in 2009. Many well-intentioned groups and individuals have sought to remedy this problem with only moderate and fleeting results. Remember, 2012 is fast approaching, and I feel our window of opportunity for unity is quickly closing. I would like to propose a truce among the various Tea Party and Patriot groups until after November 2012. Please, for the sake of our country and our state, and the elections are too important to mar with infighting. Our representative republic is quickly being transformed into an unrecognizable democracy, with being ruled by Washington, D.C. special interests and kowtowing state governors. Our freedoms are at risk, and our constitutional rights are being threatened at every side. We cannot just stand by and not act. Business as usual will not beat back the forces of radical leftists, tax and spend liberals, and their allies in the lamestream media. I cannot express to you the high degree of urgency that I feel. Tea Party patriots, their friends, their allies, need to unify around three core principles: constitutionally limited government, free markets, and fiscal responsibility. These three ideas and core principles are why I worked hard to establish the Tea Party Patriots of Central Pennsylvania. I serve on their steering committee, but my reason for helping the local Tea Party goes far beyond Central Pennsylvania. I want to support all like-minded groups and build a formidable force up to November 2012. I would like to propose a sea change to all Pennsylvania Tea Parties. That's SEA, support. I ask that each Tea Party Patriot group support each other in as much as they can. E, equip. Focus on equipping your own members and becoming more effective. And A, access. I am working on giving all Tea Party Patriot groups access to a place in Harrisburg where they can lobby legislators, rally at the Capitol, or simply meet other Tea Party groups to discuss strategy and cooperation leading up to November 2012. I have 2 office locations that have tentatively given permission to work with Tea Party groups that have come to Harrisburg. Each group has only agreed in principle, and I'm working on the specifics of that agreement. I have also proposed these ideas to my local Tea Party Patriot groups, and they have given me some very valuable and practical feedback. My ultimate aim is to establish a permanent presence in Harrisburg for all Tea Party Patriots and Tea Party conservative groups. If you are interested in my proposal and goals, don't hesitate to give me a call. Unity, just like freedom, is a fragile concept which must be defended. The radical left is counting on dividing the Tea Party movement in Pennsylvania and our nation. Let's join together and prove them wrong. I invite you to join with me in this movement. And I have my phone number and address there if you'd like to see it. I want to give you a little bit of focus here. I appreciated the remarks of the previous Tea Party leaders about unity, because we really need unity. When our founders came together and they thought the Constitutional Convention was being threatened, what did they do? Benjamin Franklin said, let's put a halt to everything, and let's go outside and let's pray. So what did he do? He got outside and they all prayed. And they pled heaven because what they needed was prayer. I think what the Tea Party needs in Pennsylvania right now is prayer. So today is a momentous day, and I think not only is it the birthday, October 13th is an important day. Beth's birthday is today, but there's another importance in October 13th. Today is when the White House cornerstone was laid. It was laid on October 13th in 1792. And President John Adams became the first president to reside in our executive mansion. 3 weeks later, John Adams was welcomed into the executive mansion. His wife Abigail wrote about their new home, "I pray heaven to bestow the blessings of this house and on all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but wise men ever rule under this roof." How many of you think we have a wise man in the White House? I want us to focus as the Pennsylvania Tea Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And Steve and his wife have been through a lot up in Perry County through their efforts to buck the Republican establishment. They've just been through a lot. If you want to ask him about that afterwards, I'm sure he'd be glad to tell you. But Steve and Emily have been fighting a good fight for a long time. Now, last but not least, and we will invite Dave back for a little longer session than this evening, but Dave Baldinger with the Pennsylvania Taxpayers Cyber Coalition.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, everyone. Those of you who have heard me before know I normally don't work from a script, but I brought one tonight, and I'm going to read from it because this is my leash. And if I don't use it, you're going to be here till midnight. So what you're going to get tonight is the Reader's Digest version. I want to thank the York 912 Patriots for inviting me here. The invitation is really appreciated. My name is David Baldinger. I'm from Berks County, and I'm a spokesperson for the Pennsylvania Coalition of Taxpayer Associations. We're a grassroots alliance of 65 advocacy organizations from across the state who are united in a single cause and are in agreement with a single plan for school property tax elimination. This has been my full-time unpaid job since 2004, when 4 leaders of taxpayer groups met in Sam Rohr's district office to discuss helping him with the bill that he had introduced at that time. Now, while we're not strictly a patriot organization, Many of our members are 912, Tea Party, and Patriot groups who understand the violation of property rights imposed on us by an inequitable property tax. The Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which office holders are sworn to uphold, guarantees that we will be secure in our property. Yet the politicians who took this oath will allow our homes to be forcibly taken from us if we do not pay our rent to the government in the form of property taxes. To understand the solution, you have to understand the problem. And it's far more than one of just high property taxes. I want to show you something here. This is from the Reading Eagle, August 17th. Tax sales. These are not foreclosures, just tax sales. There's almost 1,100 of them in here. I have something similar from Berks County, and you may have seen the one that was published in York County about the same time. Over 10,000 families a year in Pennsylvania lose their home to tax sales, and many more are forced to sell their homes to avoid being sheriffed. The problem with property tax is that it violates the most basic precept of taxation, and that's that the tax imposed should take into account a person's ability to pay. The property tax does not do that in any manner. Many homeowners can no longer afford rapidly rising property taxes. I just told you about how many people each year lose their homes to property taxes. School property taxes are predicted to rise as much as 30% over the next 3 or 4 years due to the pension spike that's due to hit in 2013-2014. The assessment system itself is subjective, and assessments are quickly outdated, amplifying the inequities. Now, although conventional wisdom says that the property tax is the most stable tax, this is untrue, and I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. In the Wyomissing School District in Berks County, the Highlands, a nursing facility, recently appealed their assessment and won. The Wyomissing School District will lose $250,000 in revenue this year from that single appeal. But even worse, the Upper Merion School District in Montgomery County, GlaxoSmithKline, has a huge facility in this district. They appealed their assessment in 2008. The school district challenged it. GSK won the appeal a few months ago, and this appeal is reducing Upper Merion's revenue by $2 million a year. Since the appeal was filed in 2008, the school district is being forced to rebate $4 million to GSK for the taxes they paid since 2008. Residents in that district are going to be facing a 14% property tax increase this year. This is happening all over the state and can happen here just as well as both businesses and homeowners appeal their assessments. Property taxes are destroying the Pennsylvania housing market. In Monroe County in the Poconos, a house selling on the market right now at the statewide median price of $200,000 has a $10,000 a year property tax load. They can't give their houses away in Monroe County. The housing market is dead. Who's going to buy a house for an average price with a $10,000 a year property tax burden? And property taxes are driving businesses and jobs from Pennsylvania. The American Legislative Exchange Council's annual Rich States, Poor States report that was released in June of this year ranks states nationwide based on 15 factors of economic competitiveness. Pennsylvania has fallen in economic competitiveness 2 years in a row from 36th to 43rd position. The state ranks even lower in economic performance, coming in at 46th position, and Pennsylvania is ranked 41st in outmigration. Anthony Davies, who is a professor of economics at Duquesne University, said these problems are symptoms of increasing property taxes when coupled with income taxes affect where young college graduates choose to move and live. Simply stated, the property tax is killing Pennsylvania's economy, driving away its residents, and stealing the property of honest homeowners who can no longer afford to pay their annual tribute to the government. Now, contrary to what the politicians tell us, the solution doesn't rely on property tax relief. How many times have you heard the term property tax relief? Well, you all know what happened with Act 1, but the former House Bill 1600 that was introduced last session is a really good example. It called for increases in both the income tax and the sales tax and would have given you about a $400 rebate. Now, how long would it take for your property taxes to keep rising to eat up that $400? You'd be right back where you were before, and now with 2 new taxes to pay. And it's the same thing with the gambling money. The gambling money is a finite resource. It's going to eventually plateau. In fact, it has already pretty much. And that few $100s you're getting each year, where are your property taxes now compared to where they were in 2007 when you first got that relief? I bet they're higher now. You agree? The only solution is to eliminate this tax. Now, in February, the PCTA, our group, developed a framework to accomplish this that's based roughly on the plan that Sam Rohrer introduced in 3 sessions of the House of Representatives. It's going to be introduced by Representative Jim Cox shortly. Jim was Sam's former chief of staff. The co-sponsorship memo for the bill was sent to all House members last week, and that's the bill that was mentioned earlier by Jeff Trish, House Bill 1776. We love it. The legislation totally eliminates all school property taxes and forever eliminates the school board's ability to levy that tax. The bill replaces the property tax revenue with an expanded sales tax base that will include more products and services without raising the rate above the current 6%. Pennsylvania is unique in this regard. Most states have a very broad sales tax base. Ours is extremely narrow compared to other states and gives us the opportunity to do this. Examples of newly taxed items would be things like haircuts, sports and theater tickets, pool cleaning services, candy and gum, newspapers and magazines. Food, clothing, medical care, prescription drugs would be exempt from the sales tax. The legislation stabilizes school funding and establishes realistic limits on public school spending. All school districts will continue to be funded at their current levels, and annual increases to the schools will be limited to the increase in the cost of living. No more 6 and 7% budget increases. If a school district legitimately has a need for more funding, such as major repairs or a new school, and there are those instances, they'll be allowed to levy a local earned income tax, but only through a no-exception referendum where they have to justify it to the voters. If they can't justify it, if the voters don't approve it, they can't levy the tax. In addition, the plan calls for a constitutional amendment that will forever abolish the property tax as a school funding method. Some people have said to me that they think they're going to pay more under this plan than they did with the property tax. They're going to pay more in sales taxes. So I'm going to give you a quick example. If your school property tax is $3,000 a year, you would have to spend $50,000 a year on newly taxed items and services to equal the amount of property tax that was eliminated. To do it on your own property tax bill, take your property tax, divide it by 0.06, and that's how much you'd have to spend each year to equal those taxes. The reason it works is because the schools are being financed by 12 million residents in Pennsylvania, plus visitors, rather than 3.2 million homeowners. It's just economy of scale. The plan has been certified by Americans for Tax Reform as being tax revenue neutral and is in compliance with their no tax increase pledge, which means if we get it through the legislature, Governor Corbett can sign it and won't violate the pledge. The plan has also been vetted against actual and estimated revenue and expenditure figures supplied by the House Appropriations Committee to ensure financial viability. Now, what I've given you here is a broad brush overview. The legislation is explained in greater detail on the PTCC website. There's fact sheets over here on the table. If you care to pick one up on the way out, the web address is on there. Please take a look and read the details of the plan and take a look at the 65 groups who comprise the PCTA. I'll give you a couple of reasons really quick to eliminate the property tax. First of all, you achieve true home ownership. You never really own your home as long as it can be taken from you for not paying your property taxes. You may have the deed, you may have the paid-off mortgage, but it's not yours. The government owns it. Stabilize school funding. Told you what's happening in some districts, and this will help to alleviate that problem. Help prevent foreclosures. Imagine how many people who are in danger of foreclosure now could save their homes if that monthly property tax escrow of $300, $400, $500 was eliminated from the monthly mortgage payment, which in most cases is as much as 43% of a mortgage payment for people. Restore plummeting real estate values. Because of the excessively high property taxes, homes in Pennsylvania have declined sharply in value and are almost impossible to sell, and I told you about Monroe County. Boost the sagging housing market. How many more people would be eligible to buy a home if all they had to pay was the mortgage payment and not that property tax escrow payment on top of it? The housing market in Pennsylvania would explode. Attract business to Pennsylvania. Businesses are eager to establish a presence in states where the tax burden is low. Attracting business to Pennsylvania by eliminating the property tax can be a huge stimulus for the state's economy, which would also generate jobs for Pennsylvania. We've talked to a number of small business owners who have told us, get rid of that property tax, we will expand our business, we will hire more people, and create a massive stimulus for Pennsylvania. Total property taxes paid by residents in Pennsylvania is about $8 to $9 billion. What happens when that money is returned to you and put into your hands to spend as you wish? Washington borrows money to pump into the economy for a stimulus. Right here, it costs the government nothing, $8 billion a year pumped back into Pennsylvania's economy. It would make us the economic powerhouse of the Northeast. So finally, if you agree with what you've heard, please pick up one of the information sheets. There are also sign-up sheets here for our PTCC email updates. I issue them infrequently and only when they're necessary, but we need grassroots support for this. Visit the website, learn about the plan, and spread the word to everybody you know. This is important because we are a grassroots effort. And finally, call your state representative tomorrow and ask them to co-sponsor Jim Cox's school property tax elimination plan that the co-sponsorship memo was sent for last week. This is a grassroots movement that needs participation by everyone if it's to be accomplished. And I'm asking you to please get involved now and help to get this done. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you, David. And that's it for our guest speakers. We're going to bring them all up front here, and then we're going to have a couple questions and an answer session. But in the meantime, while we bring the chairs up, Dr. Nick Pandelides actually came in about 5 minutes after I talked about the York Suburban School guys that are running for school board. But I'd like to have him come up and explain the details. And if we have time while we're moving the chairs up, Ed Mundorf is going to speak about the website. So we're going to get this set up here, and I'm going to hand this over to Nick right now. I'm going to give you the wireless mic.
Well, that was all very inspiring, Scott, and thanks for setting that all up. Anyway, I guess it was about, 8 months ago. It's hard for me to remember where the York 912 started the school district group, and it really makes sense. I mean, if you're going to try to get the government to work better and to be more accountable, you should start with the government closest to you, and that's the school board. So we had some success. We had 3 people run in the primaries. One of them was an incumbent. 2 of them were new, and they both won. There hadn't been an election in York Suburban, I think, for years and years. So we're just looking to kind of seal the deal. On Monday at the OSS office on Powder Mill Road at 7:30, we're going to be having a meeting just to outline the final push strategy. What we do is we have a list of likely voters, and we have a phone script, and we're just going to start making some phone calls. We also have yard signs for people that would be willing to do that and talk to their neighbors. So anyway, we're very optimistic, and we just want to kind of get it done since we've had much more success than we had hoped for. So we'll appreciate any help. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Hey, while Ed's speaking about the website, can all our guest speakers come up and take seats on the stage, please?
About 3 weeks ago, we finally put our new website online. It's york912patriots.net or .com. We sent out some emails to anybody who was on our list, with a new username and password. Not a whole lot of people have gotten online yet, but we're hoping to get more people on there. A lot of the information we're talking about tonight either is on the site now or will be in the future. If you have any questions about getting on the site and doing anything, there's a tab, Contact Us. Send us an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. We're going to have more about the website here in the next month or so, but actually we want to drive all our traffic through the website. We want to create all our emails through the website. We have blog spots on the website where you can blog and talk with each other on the website. So please access the website. Now what we're going to do, since you can hear it raining, pouring like crazy outside, you're not going to want to go outside now anyway. So the floor's open up for questions. So you can ask anybody just about anything. So let me get George here.
Yeah, this question is for Steve. I've been around a long time, and I've seen a lot of organizations where they've tried to get a number of people together, and there is always an I. And in your message, there was a lot of I's. And I'm wondering how you want to deal, or how will these independent groups deal with a leadership? Who will be the leader?
I'm familiar with the I in, but there's no I in a service organization, or there shouldn't be an I in a service organization. I view what I would do as a service organization, coordinating and actually facilitating the operation of the different groups together. I've done that in the past when I was with the Christian Coalition, and believe me, there are no more difficult groups to deal with than Christian groups. Trust me, they're no different than the Tea Party groups. I feel as a service and a customer-oriented organization, you need to deal with that in mind. And you're dealing with mostly volunteers as well. Volunteers are very precious. Their time is precious. I do this on my own time. They do that on their own time. I know where they're coming from, so I'm not going to demand the same accountability necessarily that you do on the job, because I know you're pulled in many different ways. So it's just a service type of organization that I see.
This is for Dave. I'm Jerry Abinchon, Springsbury Township. I appreciate the information you've shared with the property tax elimination, and I'm very familiar with Sam Rohr's proposal back in 2004, I think you said. Everything I have heard talking to Gillespie, my local representative, and others is you can't get Pittsburgh and you can't get Philadelphia legislatures to go along with this. And it's kind of like pushing a boat upstream when you come to the property tax elimination, because these people in those locations apparently don't have a deal or don't have a problem with property tax. So how do you, knowing that this is a problem, how are you going to get these legislatures to kind of go along with the rest of the legislatures in getting this passed?
Philadelphia does have a huge problem. They just refuse to recognize it. But I think, it isn't so much the common sense of it as it is the politics of it. And over the past 7 years, we have managed to build a huge coalition and a lot of momentum. And I think the momentum alone is going to help to drive it. You're right, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia have always been a problem. I don't know if it's going to be so much of a problem this year. The other thing we have going for us, too, is that we have a lot of bipartisan support this time out. Sam always had a few Democrats who were willing to go along with the bill. We're seeing more and more of it this time. We think we're going to be able to do 102 in the House without much difficulty. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's always difficult. We think we can do 102 in the House. Our problem is the Senate and Dominic Pileggi and whether or not he will even allow the bill to be considered in the Senate. But this is why I said what we need is grassroots support. I had some word out of the House of Representatives that some of the representatives were getting a little bit twitchy when they saw the amount of growth we had. Back in February, we were 38 groups. Now we're 65, especially since the Patriot groups have come on board. They don't like to see that. They don't like to see a grassroots groundswell of support because they know we've gained some power, and I think that's going to be the determining factor this year in the House. And that's why I asked everyone to get involved, and I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yes, I'm Bill from local York's 912 Patriots here. Thank you all for coming. You know about the 501c4 that we are in the dispute now with Todd Platts. Are you also all 501c4s, which does allow some political activity, a certain amount, and if so, how much is that? In order to deal with the local press here or whatever questions come up, it would be good to know that.
Sam, do you want to?
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
I'll just give a comment on that. I mean, I don't know how all the others are formed here. AFP, as an example, is a 501c3 and a C4. Your C4s allow you to engage in an amount of political activity. So you can support, promote pieces of legislation. You can encourage people to directly contact legislators about certain issues. You can endorse candidates. So there's a range of things. I'm not going to sit here as an attorney and try to tell you all of that, but that is all fairly much explained. But a C4 does allow for a fairly wide range of political activities. You can't give to a candidate. That has to be a PAC. You can't give to them actual dollars, but you can push, you can endorse, and you can oppose.
So endorsing would include the bumper stickers?
That could be a part of what it is. Now, again, that depends upon how you're chartered also, but that is something that is answerable by the charter that you've put together, and your attorney can tell you on that. You ought to look at the mission statement of what you're engaged in. Mm-hmm. I can't give you a technical answer to that question right here.
I could.
That you can pull out from. I mean, there are folks out there who understand the law governing political activity. That's where you have to go. There are experts on that. And Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill. We've talked to an attorney, a federal elections attorney, and as a 501c4, we're a social welfare or a social welfare group where we're an issues advocacy group basically, and we stay on the issues, and we're well within our means of what we've been doing, and we've had very good attorney advice on this. So as a 501c4, we're an issues advocacy. There are certain spending limits that we have if we're advocating for the removal of a federal candidate, but that's...
But you don't have to register with the FEC.
No.
So Platts was wrong on that.
The FEC could audit us. I mean, we're not obliged to register with FEC as a PAC.
I thought that was Platts' point.
That was Platts' point, but he is incorrect on that. No, he's incorrect. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, my name's Mike Nosmak. I'm from Helm out here in York County. And the question is, you say we now have like 62 groups on this property tax thing together, and you say I might be getting their attention. The thing I've always wondered is with the Tea Party like it is, and especially now we're all talking about joining up, why don't we all do a march and wind up on the steps of the Capitol in Harrisburg? Wouldn't that get somebody's attention? Like we do on tax day and all that?
And we're 65 groups, but that thought has been considered, but it's going to have to be timed appropriately so it has the most effect. I heard Jeff Picola say the other day that legislation is not done by rallies and marches on Harrisburg. I don't know that I fully agree with that idea, but I think it has to be done at the right time when the bill is being considered, when there's a possibility of having some influence on the legislators. Yes, and that's a fine idea. We did that, what was that, Sam, 2008, I believe, we did a rally in the Rotunda, and one of the legislators told us then that was the largest rally they had ever seen in the Rotunda. I think we had in excess of 600 people, and surprisingly a number of Amish people who generally don't get involved in politics. They even came out. So, yeah, absolutely we can try that again. Certainly.
I'd give one comment on that. Rallies by themselves are not sufficient, but when hooked in conjunction with a broader effort, it can be tremendously important. It really is an evidence of momentum, and shot too early, it can be forgotten. So that's what Dave was talking about. That's why I think it's an important piece in the equation, frankly, but it needs to be done in conjunction with the broader effort, timed with votes when they come up, and then it can, in fact, mean something. Yeah.
I think times for rallies are over. I think we've rallied. I think we called. We've done everything we can, and that's why I'm looking at, in answer to your question is for Philadelphia, is replace the representatives. We're done calling, and that's it. You know, we've tried. We've tried to do it the right way. And as for rallies, you know, look at what's happening with Occupy, whatever, Occupy Scranton, Occupy. You know, I just think that our rallies are geared more towards tax day at this point, and that's just to get more people involved, but they've really been dwindling down a lot. I mean, our meetings have more, and I think we're more effective educating the public and getting more involved in the process ourselves. So that's my thought.
I love rallies, and for me, it depends on the
purpose of your rally. We've done 2 rallies. My local Tea Party Patriots of Central Pennsylvania have done 2 rallies on the Capitol steps. So they do have a place, but I also agree that timing is also important. And that's why I say that the purpose of your rally is important. Is your purpose legislation? Is your purpose moving the Overton window, as Glenn Beck talks about? Because you can move the Overton window on a particular subject. Say, for instance, property tax reform. You can actually move legislators who wouldn't vote for it before if your rally is timed properly and appropriately at a specific point. They can be swayed in that particular point. And that is actually what I think Glenn means as when he says moving the Overton window.
One comment of that question earlier about tax exempt status, whatever. We attempt to be, in Berks, politically neutral. Of course, 90% of the audience are going to be Republican, and 95% of the people that want to speak are going to be Republican. I can't help it. If the Democrats want to be constitutional conservatives, you're more than welcome. But as far as staying within the law, we did a questionnaire. You have a politician you want to get rid of, you write your questionnaire that suits your cause, and you just ask where you stand on these issues, and you have his opponent answer those questions that you support. The answers is going to be obvious, and you didn't violate any law. You didn't endorse a candidate. You just told the constituents where these folks stand. Let the voter decide, and it works.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think debates work very well to bring out the issues, and I think if we all held more debates and brought out the issues and where they stand, which is something that, you know, the progressives don't like to talk about as issues. So if you're controlling the debate, then I think you're going to get better answers than if you were to have a rally and just, you know, not really have any answers or solutions.
Craig Murphy from Windsor Township. The problem, I go to a lot of Red Line School Board meetings, and they know me very well. This is for, the problem is out of Harrisburg, there's mandates. And the school board complains about the mandates, like you said, unfunded. But there's nothing ever talked about coming out of Harrisburg. How are you going to stop these unfunded mandates that these school boards got to do? There's nothing ever said about any of this. And that's the problem. How do you direct that? How do you stop this carrying on?
That's why the bill that I referred to at the beginning is in. I actually wrote that last year in conjunction with the counties, commissioners, and the township supervisors and the school board association. All of them complain. The school boards are probably the biggest ones in my opinion. They've complained about the legislature and blame the legislature with unfunded mandates for why taxes go up so high. And then the legislature turns around and blames the school boards for being profligate spenders. And the result of it is nothing is ever done. It's a straw man argument, and some of the reason why an effort even to eliminate the property tax by some is that they prefer to keep that funding mechanism in place so that you can blame each other for what's going on. But the unfunded mandate part of it is part of that bill calls for the fact that the future legislatures could not impose any more law and or regulation unless, if it costs something, unless the funding is also attached to it. So the accountability that would put on the legislature is very, very great in that. And again, on that issue, the counties and townships and school board are all 100% fully in favor of that. And that's why that bill right now has a very, very good chance of being pushed out. It's in Appropriations Committee. And right now, when all the local governments are really drying up regard to funding, I mean, if you're low on money, what do? You raise taxes, you raise your revenue, or you cut your spending. And for every dollar that's cut in spending is equivalent to $2 effectively raised in revenue. So the best thing that could be done for local governments now, including schools, would be to get the mandates off of them and to allow them to reduce their spending. So that bill is a very good one to pass. It's an economic bill. It's a mandate relief bill, but it's in there. It's House Bill 783, and 883. House Bill 883. And I'd mark that down and contact your House members on that bill and tell them to push for that thing to be gotten out. There really is no reason for them not to move that. The advantages are far too many.
Salaries and benefits. And if you look at the way the education is structured, it's inefficient. They deliberately have, everybody says small class size is a good idea. It's not. If you have 15 people in a class and they're not at a similar level of education, or similar level of accomplishment, that's 6 minutes of individual attention. What really needs to be done is appropriately setting the classes up based on the children's ability and the children's accomplishments. And that's, they say that's politically incorrect. We all have different God-given talents. But the reality is if you have 30 or 40 kids in a math class that are on the same level with the same aptitude, then you can have an excellent teacher teaching 40 kids. You pay that teacher better because they're a good teacher, and yet you save a ton of money. The other thing is, if you look at the benefit package that most employees in school districts have, it's at least a third or more of what you see in the private sector. So all those things are very important. But the basic structure of public education, that's where the change needs to come if you really want to lower taxes.
Hi, my name's Tom Smith. I'm from Redline, and I got a question for Lorene. You talk about Occupy Scranton and whatever city they're going to be in, but they want to end capitalism. And I was watching on Fox, forget Business or Fox News, and Jennifer Stefano said once that the 99% of the people that are protesting in New York want to tax the 1% more. So instead of taxing the 1% more, wouldn't you agree, I'm going to make a bold statement here, when you become senator for Pennsylvania, would you tax the 1% more? And do you agree that the 99% of the people should be able to, the capitalism, I got this question all mixed up now. The capitalism they want to end, which is a free market, which makes them either, they can go out and become the 1%, or they can stay the 99% and do nothing and stay up and be bums in protests in New York. Do you agree with that as well, that they can go out and become the 1%? And then do you agree that we should switch the 1%, the 99% become rich and the 1% become poor?
Thanks for that question. Well, I don't agree with taxes at all. I think that the IRS needs to be abolished, so I am for the fair tax. And that would be the thing that I will be pushing extremely strong, and that's what I'm trying to do by educating people. And I brought, I hope that you all look at this paycheck, that I have a copy of a paycheck. It tells a lot. Your paycheck tells a lot. But anybody in that 99% category can be 1%. I just told you my story. I grew up in a foster home, and I have my own business. I own 2 homes. Yes, I'm struggling. I had raised 4 children. But this is America. Anything is possible in America. And it'll stay that way as long as we win in 2012. So yes, I agree that anybody can make it in America.
Thank you, Lorene. We're going to take one more question in the back here, and then we're going to adjourn the meeting. And while I go over and get this last questioner, Sue Silcox is standing up front where she's willing and able to take your reservations for the Constitution Blitz next weekend.
Hi, my name's Larry Landis. I'm from York. Question, the property tax battle, isn't the probably the biggest fight we're going to have is going to be against the NEA?
Actually, it's interesting. And I think Sam will back me up on this. You're talking about the PSEA, too, the Pennsylvania State Education Association.
Correct.
To this point, they have been silent. They haven't obviously endorsed it, but we have not seen them come out opposing it either. we feel this is happening because these people are not stupid. They depend on the dues of their members to survive. There's 100 school districts roughly in Pennsylvania right now that are in financial distress. They're in danger of being taken over by the state. If the state takes them over, the contracts are off, finished. The state can do what they want to do. They can lay off teachers as much as they want. That's going to reduce their dues, and we've seen what's happening in school districts across the state this year with layoffs of teachers. All of this reduces dues to the PSEA. They're smart enough to understand that if this plan is passed, it stabilizes the funding to the schools, they retain their members, they retain their dues. This is the theory why we feel that PSEA has not come out against this bill. And Sam, I believe you agree with me pretty much on that? Pardon? And teachers are homeowners too. Good point. One thing I want to mention to you that I should have said before, the PCTA meets annually, and 2 years ago we had a speaker who was a former California lobbyist. He told us at that time that at the state level, as few as 10 contacts from constituents to a legislator can change their mind on an issue or a vote. I was in Pittsburgh for a mini tour a couple of weeks ago. A representative out there asked me to present in his district, and I thank him wholeheartedly for that. I made that same claim there. He said, absolutely. If he hears from 10 or a dozen or 15 of his constituents, he's going to think really hard about his position on an issue. That's why I mentioned to you earlier about having the grassroots support for this. It doesn't take much to try to get this done if we're united. I'm sorry I went on. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I want to mention 2 events that are coming up that Todd Kiefer gave me. And give me 5 minutes here because I want to read something to you, which I think is very important. But the 2 events are, it's an evening with Glenn Meekum, which is at the Radisson Camp Hill. It's the first Wednesday in November. I don't have the date here, but it's $45. Where do you get the information for that, Todd?
Go to glennmeekum.com, and if anybody doesn't know Glenn Meekum, he's the founder of freemarkets.com. He's a venture capitalist. He is a die-hard free market guy and does a radio show, rebroadcast. It's live 7:30 to 9:30 on Saturday mornings, rebroadcast on WHP 8 to 10 on Sunday mornings. He does a great radio show. And then the other event, Sam should tell us about.
Americans for Prosperity event in D.C.
There's a national summit November 4th and 5th. There's handout sheets out here that you can take. I encourage you to take them, called Defending the American Dream Summit. There will be several thousand people from all across the country, main speakers, lots of them, Herman Cain among others that will be there speaking. A great opportunity to go and see firsthand, and I would encourage you all to do that. That has to be signed up for. There are bus packages that you can take buses down that are discounted packages. I would encourage you all to do that. I think it'll be well worth the time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sam.
Todd.
Now, I had mentioned something about redstate.com, the blog, the conservative blog, and I had an opportunity to read this while some of our guests were speaking, and I'd really like to take 5 minutes to read this to you because we're not crazy wacko kooks who have it in for Todd Platts. This is a conservative, a national conservative writing this article. Please sit here and listen to this because it just hits home. He was elected in 2000 and is serving in his 6th term in Congress. He is pathetic on education issues and school choice reforms in particular. He voted in favor of No Child Left Behind, and earlier this year was one of only 4 Republicans to oppose reinstating opportunity scholarships for poor children in D.C. He is a restrictor of free speech. He supported McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform, along with 527 reform a few years later. He even opposed a bipartisan bill to ensure that campaign finance laws would not apply to bloggers. He is a defender of seemingly every liberal spending program, including the National Endowment of Arts, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Amtrak, Head Start, AmeriCorps, the National School Lunch Program, the Legal Services Corporation, etc. He is serial reauthorizer of fare subsidies, highway subsidies, and energy subsidies. He is profoundly unserious about cutting spending. He voted to earmark funds for Kentucky's tourism industry, the D.C. Metro system, a national mule and packers museum, researching the genetic makeup of grapes, the Bronx Council of Arts, etc. He consistently votes against the conservative budgets offered by the Republican Study Committee, in parentheses, with one exception, which must have been a mistake. He opposed comprehensive reforms to the budget and spending process designed to limit government rather than expand it, probably because they were opposed vigorously by the appropriators. He voted for the Medicare prescription drug benefit and the expansion of S-chip, and voted to block the Bush administration from controlling Medicaid spending. And in this age where every Republican tries to outdo each other on repeal of Obamacare, he voted to expand one of its grant programs earlier this year in 2011. He is a regulator. He voted for Sarbanes-Oxley and led the effort for higher CAFE standards on cars and trucks. He voted to overregulate credit card companies so that they increase costs on consumers. And before it was fashionable to drill baby drill, he opposed lifting the moratorium on drilling in the outer continental shelf. He was one of only 3 Republicans who voted for all 6 in 06 priority bills of the new Democrat majority in 2007, increasing the minimum wage, adding price controls in Medicare, Democrat pay-go, etc. And of course, he voted to massively increase the nation's debt limit by $1 trillion this past summer with virtually nothing in exchange for it. He currently has a 52% on Heritage Action's scorecard. He represents a district that is currently a +12 GOP district. George W. Bush and John McCain won the district convincingly, as did Tom Corbin in 2010. To give you a sense for how conservative that is, Jeff Flake's district is +15 GOP, and Mike Pence's district is +10 GOP. Meet Todd Platts. He represents Pennsylvania's 19th district, and he needs to be primaried. This is not from us. This is from a national conservative blogger. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.